Welcome to Sip with Summers, the podcast where we talk about sex, intimacy, and pleasure. Because someone has to, and let's be honest, it may as well be me. I'm your host, Jennifer Marie Summers, board certified sexologist, certified sex coach, menopause coach in training, and your favorite inappropriate friend with a microphone. Around here, we cover everything from why is my libido ghosting me to is it normal to fantasize about pizza during sex? Spoiler alert, yes. So grab a drink and let's get into the good stuff because pleasure is your birthright and awkward is my love language. Let's spill, sip, and say the things most people whisper. Welcome to the show. Dr. Stacy Friedman is a clinical sexologist, certified sex and intimacy coach, and the unapologetically bold host of the Purple Passion Project. With over 26 years in the medical field and over 20 years working in the sexuality field, Dr. Stacy helps people break down taboos, communicate clearly, and build hotter, healthier intimacy without shame. She specializes in mismatched sex drives, alternative lifestyles, women who experience painful sex, and the LGBTQ community. Known for blending expertise with humor and heart, Dr. Stacy makes conversations about sex feel safe, real, and seriously empowering. Her motto is, "My passion is to help you create yours." I love this, Dr. Stacy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for such a very nice introduction.
Now, Dr. Stacy, I know you've been in the health and sexuality field for over 20 years. What pulled you into this line of work and keeps you passionate about it today?
Gosh, well, I know we've discussed the story of us when we were younger, but when I was in high school, people used to joke around and call me Dr. Ruth because I was always the one person that people would go to talk, and she was very in at the time. I was always just very open-minded, and I always wanted to help others, and that's just kind of in my blood, which is why I got into the medical field in the first place. One of the things that I just love doing is talking about sex, having sex, and just helping people enjoy it because there was just so much shame and difficulty of people talking at that stage that when they found someone like me who was like, oh, yeah, let's talk about it, everyone was just drawn to you. And I think that's kind of what I loved about, the whole idea of the sexuality field. And that's kind of what got me towards the path. But then when I had my child at 26 years old, I had an issue with painful sex because I did not have a very smooth delivery. And I had 6 years where I struggled. And so I had to
Wow.
actually go speak to somebody because I was struggling in my relationship and I was having just 24/7 pain, and especially when it came to sex. So I said, you know what? There's got to be more than just a 75-year-old man teaching couples. And I just said, you know what? I really want to look into doing this. And that's kind of what got me into it, to really be able to be there to support others.
Yeah, and I can relate to the Dr. Ruth, especially. She really was the catalyst for me getting into this career. And it sounds like she lent that to you as well. I'm curious, when you're introducing yourself to people, how do you explain what you do?
Well, I usually just say, hey, I'm Stacy, because I don't want people to know right off the bat. Because as soon as my husband's like, "Oh, have you met Dr. Stacy?" I'm just kinda like, "Oh, no." You know? Because then they're like, "Oh, what kind of a doctor are you?" "Doctor of sex," my husband's definitely proud. But I try to just get them to first just have a small conversation with me so they see that they could be comfortable, that they could relate, because it is a taboo subject and it shouldn't be, but I want people to just feel comfortable. So I just let people know, when they ask me what I do, I just say, well, I have a doctorate in human sexuality and I work on sexual health where someone like a psychologist might work on mental health. So I'm a sexologist. And they're kind of like, huh? And then I just kind of get into exactly what I do and how I help and focusing on goals and not processing through all of the like trauma or abuse and kind of explain what it does and how it's just education and skill building. And then people are like, oh, I never heard of that. Or, oh, that's really cool. And that's kind of when people are a little more open rather than, hi, I'm Dr. Stacy. Nice to meet you. I work on sex people. But, It takes a little bit of a minute there.
Yeah, I really try to sort of ease into that conversation
Yeah.
myself because I agree. If you're like, hey, I'm a board certified sexologist, they're like, whoa. My favorite is the people who think that we are in the couple's bedroom, like blowing a whistle, like, hey, don't do that. Lift your leg up.
Yeah, people always think that I'm standing there in pom-poms going, "Way deep, go way deep." No, we are not there. Only if you pay me a little extra may I be there.
Right. I know. I
But,
say that too, but I worry people think I'm serious.
no, right? But no, I say, "No, it's just communication. We go into an office or we go onto a Zoom call. I am not in your bedroom cheering you on." But you could pretend I am after you have a session by thinking about everything I just taught you.
There you go. Yeah.
I do, like, called at 2 in the morning, not calls, but text at 2 in the morning saying, "Yay, I finally got my dry spell over. Thanks so much. I was thinking about you last night." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I get texts like that too, like, "Oh my god, I used my toy last night," and it was
It's
like
fun.
and then all the water emojis.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
great. We get some really cool messages from people.
We do, it's fun.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Stacy, you said that sex is a transfer of energy. Can you unpack for the listeners, what does that mean?
Oh boy. Well, it's kind of like taking two power sources and putting them into each other because we each have our own energy. We each carry our own positive, negative energy. It's not just about exchanging fluids. You're literally exchanging the energy that you're bringing to a so called session, and the other person is bringing in their energy. And so when you get those two positive energy responses, you're going to have that positive reaction. Our moods, our stress, just our intention is transmitted through all of our energy. And it's so important to be able to breathe and relax and not just doing something, but actually being intentional. And
Mhm.
that's the energy we want to bring. So when I say it's a transfer of energy, if you're anxious or angry or, your partner feels that, you're going to go into the bedroom and that's what you're gonna bring in there.
So how can couples be more intentional about the energy that they're giving and receiving during intimacy?
Well, I think that first of all is speaking your intention, saying something simple just as like, "I just wanna connect with you tonight. I wanna hold you. I wanna just, have a conversation. Can we just cuddle?" Things like that, because otherwise everything is nowadays so expected to end in intercourse. And if you go into a session with that energy of, "Oh God, I don't want to have sex," then that's that feeling that everyone's going to have. So if you go into it, if you're not necessarily in the mood and you go into it and you just say, "You know what, I may not be ready in the mood yet, but how about we just connect in a different way?" Then you're bringing in a connection type of energy, which could potentially turn into more.
Yeah, and the clients I work with, it comes up a lot for them to where
Yeah.
they don't wanna do it, they feel like it's a chore, that it's just something that's being done to them, and so I love this idea of the energy and the connection and making it more about that and less about the end goal of penetration and orgasm, essentially. And, speaking of which, a lot of people do think orgasm is the end goal. How do you reframe orgasm as part of pleasure and not just the finish line?
Well, you know that saying, it's a journey and not a destination, because
Mhm.
if you can't enjoy your journey, you're going to get to that destination and you're going to be like, that was it. You know, it's like having the dessert, having a meal and not having the dessert, or having the dessert and not having the meal. You've got to have it all, And so if you're not enjoying that journey, the orgasm is either going to be less than, you're going to just be pushing through and rushing everything. You want to be able to shift that mindset of orgasms being the end goal to curiosity, to exploring, to be able to just say, well, what can I feel now? What's my body doing? Part of my body is feeling good. Because if you just go in focusing on, that's where performance anxiety happens for men and women. And a lot of women can't get to that orgasm because they're not relaxed enough to be able to just say, hey, let's just explore, play, fun. And then when you stop chasing that orgasm, ironically, it can show up without you expecting it.
What's coming up for me is when we're stuck in our head and we're not in our bodies, it's so much harder to experience an
Yeah.
orgasm. And so, what you said about focusing on the pleasurable sensations and just feeling in tune with your body, sometimes it can happen when you don't have as much pressure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that many people, because we're so performance focused, we have to get back to that pleasure focus. And when people say they want to have sex all the time, take some of those times, change it to pleasure focused. And that way you might have a completely different mindset about going in and spending time with your partner intimately.
That is a great tip. Listeners, write that down.
Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Stacy, why do you think so many people struggle with orgasms or even talking about orgasms?
Well, communication is important all the time, and a lot of people struggle with just communication in general. I think that, first of all, a lot of people have shame, whether it be a religious shame, just personal shame, how they feel about themselves. And also, I think a lot of it is misinformation because, we're brought up thinking that from seeing movies that all this lovemaking and everybody should be having orgasms through porn, all this kind of stuff, so we are misguided as to what an orgasm needs to get to, what we need to get to the orgasm. And
Mhm.
some of the misinformation is just something simple as understanding that only 20 to 25% of women are having orgasms through intercourse. When I tell some people that, they're like, oh my God, I didn't know. You mean I'm normal? And so most of us never really got an accurate sex education, and you have so much silence around you. Don't get pregnant, don't get an STD, and never really understanding our bodies.
Yeah. Pleasure is definitely missing from the family life curriculum. And I myself, at my parties with my coaching, I meet women that maybe don't even know where their clitoris is or what the purpose of it
Absolutely.
is. And, media makes us think that we should orgasm with a penis and the vagina, and that's how
Right.
the right, good way to do it. So I love that we're having this conversation and normalizing orgasms.
Yeah, well, we need to normalize it more so that way people are not feeling so broken and that something is wrong with them. And also that like you said, that lack of body awareness.
Mhm.
You know, some things that you and I do are just teaching, especially women, what our bodies look like, how to take a mirror and examine what we have down there, where the clitoris is. I had a client that I showed him a vagina pillow and it had a little pearl on it at the top where the clit was. And she goes, oh, that's pretty. What's that for? And I said, that's clitoris. And she's like, that's where it is. I thought it was inside. And
Wow.
she was in her 40s. But I was like, "Do you not masturbate?" And she's like, "No." So we really need to normalize masturbation as well so women can really appreciate what their bodies can do and learn what side of their clit feels good and what areas of the vulva feels good. So that way we can really understand how to feel pleasure.
Yes. Yes, and I think knowing what you like, then it's easier to share
Mhm.
that with a partner rather than
Absolutely.
just, like, laying there and hoping that they touch something correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this leads me into our next section, which are some listener questions. I have on my website a ask me anything anonymously. And so
Yes.
listeners, clients, they'll pop in and ask some questions. And I pulled three that are all about orgasm. So you ready for this, Dr. Stacy?
I am ready for an orgasm. I mean, a question for an orgasm.
We'll do the orgasm after. All right. So our first listener said, talk to me about the differences between all the female orgasms. Does vaginal penetration orgasm feel different than a clitoral stimulation orgasm? And how do you know if you've experienced one if you're only used to the other?
That's a whole episode on its own. Sorry, but I will give you a short version.
Thank you.
It's one of my favorite questions because that just shows that people are interested in learning, which is what we need to do. The clitoral orgasm is probably the most common, and that's why when we say that only a certain percentage of women orgasm through vaginal intercourse, a lot of it is because they're actually getting clitoral stimulation, which I just learned even myself. I thought it was 8,000 or so, but I just learned that we have over 10,000 nerve endings. Think about a firecracker. Oh, wow. That's a lot of nerve endings in that
Yeah.
orgasmic place. So, when the question is also about the difference in feeling, I know that I had a hysterectomy. And when I would have an orgasm prior to the hysterectomy and after the hysterectomy, it definitely felt different because my uterus would contract. And even though I was having a clitoral orgasm, I would still feel it more vaginally as well because of the uterus getting all the blood flow. So, yes, you can definitely feel different things from different places and different orgasms. But then once I had the hysterectomy, the clitoral orgasm was much, much more intense because it was more focused.
Oh, okay.
So it was, because a lot of people get nervous after having a hysterectomy. Am I going to be able to have orgasms? I had to kind of refocus my mind as to what my body was doing, kind of relearn my body a little bit. But when I get them now, huge difference from before, because before it was a little bit more through my stomach. So,
Mhm.
yes, the orgasms can definitely feel different. We also have the vaginal orgasm, which could hit the G spot or the A spot, and that can feel like a little bit more deep, full bodied, like I was talking about, instead of like that sharper spark. And then sometimes you can have them blended where you have the internal, G spot with the clitoral. They also have a cervical orgasm. Some people get really sensitive when it's hitting the cervix if you have it a little bit deeper. Sometimes you could feel that when you're lifted up on a pillow.
Mhm.
They actually have an it's not as common, but an anal orgasm, believe it or not, is real. And the anus holds a lot of nerve endings as well. And for many people, just sometimes anal play can trigger it. It's not as common, but it can happen. So, and then they have full body. I mean, squirting, and there's just so many different types of orgasms. So you just want to try at least just for one,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then figure out how to go after that.
Definitely. And, nipple play, that, like, I think it's a very small percentage, but some women are capable, and men as well, of having nipple orgasms.
Oh yeah.
And of course, blended, like you said, containment. So clitoris with something in the vagina
Mhm.
or, clitoris with nipple play. I mean, there's so many possibilities.
So many. And no, we're not going to fit neatly into one little box. I mean, you could have anal sex and not have an anal orgasm, but if you're touching the clitoris at the same time while you have something in the anus, then you could have an explosive orgasm that way as well. They also may even feel different on different days, depending on hormones, your mood, the kind of touch that you have. It's less about the label of what kind it is and more about just exploring the different varieties.
Yeah, mine is definitely cycle dependent. So, like in
Yeah.
the end luteal phase or when I'm ovulating, it's like game on.
Well, that's when you usually get 40 years when you're ovulating.
Yes.
I don't do that anymore, but I remember.
So, our next listener question, she said that her partner's a male and loves giving her oral sex. He's the only one that she's ever let do it to her and she enjoys it, but she's not having an orgasm from it. And then she gets in her head because she feels like he's down there too long. She wants to know, is there something she can do differently to enjoy receiving it as much as he enjoys giving it to her?
Well, the first thing I want to say is you are normal. You are not broken. Plenty of women do not orgasm from oral, just as we were just explaining that plenty of women don't orgasm from sex.
Mhm.
It takes time. And first of all, if your partner doesn't want to be there or they're drowning, they will get up. They can breathe. So you don't have to worry how long they're down there. Okay. And if things are not going as quickly, then take a little bit of a break or maybe try something different. But what's so important is if you know your own body and you know what works for you, that's why masturbation is so important. You can guide him. You can tell him to change the pressure or the speed. Maybe the tongue's in the wrong place. I mean, use your words, use your hands. Those little shifts can help. One other thing that's so important is like what we were talking about before, staying present. If you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is taking so long, he can't breathe, I'm drowning him, all this kind of thing, you're not focusing on how it feels. You need to just understand that the pleasure does not have to equal orgasm. So as long as you're having that intimacy, that's what you want to focus on.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, man. All right. So, our last listener question, they said, when I'm close to orgasming and hitting that release, either solo or with a partner, I get either too self conscious because my kids are having to keep quiet, or I start getting in my own head. the result is not a full release, tends to be a short release. So do you have any tips for that?
Just scream, baby, scream. No, I understand when kids are around, you don't want to, "Mommy, are you okay?" Yeah, I get it. Get it.
Right?
I mean, it's super common because listen, we have kids, there's so many parents around that are struggling with just having sex in general when you have kids. So when you're, knowing that your kids are in the next room, it's a little bit difficult sometimes. But I would definitely, first of all, lock the door. And a lot of parents were like, "Oh, well, my kid will just walk in." You need to create your own boundaries. Your child, obviously, certain age ranges will be different, but you need to teach them that when the door is locked, it's mom and dad private time and things can wait. You don't have to be at their beck and call every single second. Make sure you play some music, put on some music and or even go in the shower. The shower is really, really helpful because then you could just tell your kids you're in the shower and you don't have to worry about them knowing what you're doing. Breathing, just trying to relax and get your mind back into your body. The breath work is very important because every time you catch your brain wandering, just guide it back to, okay, oh, shoot, I'm thinking about my kids. Just take that deep breath and get yourself back into your body. Have your partner breathe with you.
Yeah, that's great. I do a lot of meditation. And
Yeah.
when I first started meditating, it was very hard for me to stay in body.
Mhm. But
Uh,
practice.
it truly is. And one thing I learned was focus on the breath. So when your mind starts wandering, focus on your breath. And so I think in this situation you can too. And you and I both know when you're in your head and you're thinking too much, it's hard to be present, embodied,
Right.
and have pleasure. So get in your body.
Absolutely. And I also think sometimes we are so focused on, having to worry about the noise, but sometimes keeping it in and reframing the noise could be really sexy too. And finding like your quiet release, like more of a versus the, you know,
Yes.
just kind of practice keeping it in. And that could be fun and sexy too. But
Yeah,
don't not do it because of it.
yeah, just let it go.
Yeah.
Quietly or loudly, whichever you prefer.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so I got a couple of quick fire questions for you, Dr. Stacy.
Sure.
What's your favorite toy right now?
Oh, we know from our conversation, we like the little sucky sucky.
Yes.
The rose, the womanizer, satisfier, anything that has a little bit of a stick or something to hold on to that you can put on there and just do the little sucky sucky thing.
Oh,
Those that have the little breath of air and you're done within 30 seconds or less.
yes, I actually just ordered a new toy. It's called the Satisfier. So it's on
Yeah.
the way to me, and they describe it as liquid air pressure vibration. And one of my girlfriends has it, and she's described it as just warm water, like melting
Uh,
over your clitoris. Like, I cannot
uh,
wait to get this thing.
Call me when you're done and let me know how it goes. Yeah. Because I
I
might have
will.
to get one too.
Yeah, clit suckers, just kiss.
Yes, yes.
Okay, what's one myth about orgasms that you want to banish forever?
A myth is just that, all women should be having it and are easily having it. And I think that if we can banish the fact that orgasms have to come, first of all, with each session that you're having, and also that you're broken if you're not having them, I think that we need to get rid of that because I think it takes a little bit of practice. It takes some mindset work, things that you and I do to help others. And it can be done, but we just need to know the right steps to take. And so it can be changed if we do the right steps.
Love it. The one I think for me would be that our partner is responsible for our orgasms. So, like, it's okay to
True.
grab a toy if, you're struggling to finish and you want to
Yeah,
finish. It's okay to grab a toy and have some play and, perhaps your partner can help you with the toy, play with your nipples, kiss you,
absolutely.
whatever. But our partner doesn't have to always be the one to give us orgasms.
No, you're responsible for your own and you're responsible to know what it's going to take. And that's why, once again, masturbation is so important.
Everybody go masturbate after you're done listening to this podcast.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
last quick fire question. A moan, a scream, or a whisper, which is your favorite personal release?
I like them all because I like all releases. And like I was saying, when you're worried about kids, that silent release, that whisper can be really intense because you're forcing yourself to keep that inside. And that moan and scream when it's really, really good could be just that release where you just lay in bed and you're like, holy shit. So I think that when you put a little bit of everything in your menu, I think that that's when you're going to have the best sex that you can have.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, the whisper I don't do as much, but I wanna,
I
like,
don't
add
have
that
to. I'm
in.
empty nesting.
Yeah,
Got
I live
nobody at
alone
home.
and so does my partner, so we can scream and yell as much as we want. Although, I do think my neighbor heard me recently. He's been looking at me kind of funny, but
Oh, knocking on the door.
so I'm laughing a lot, Dr. Stacy. I just love talking to you. And
No, absolutely.
you've said that if you aren't laughing and having fun when you're having sex, you're doing it wrong. Can you share how humor and playfulness actually enhances intimacy?
Absolutely. It's in one of the chapters of my book, I have a quote, and that's what my quote is if you're not laughing while having sex, you're doing it wrong. And it's basically just saying that sex is supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be so serious. And yes, of course, you want to sometimes have those passionate times where you're really, intense and intimate, but you also want to have playtime because when you allow yourselves to like laugh and giggle and be silly, you're creating a safe space. And that is what it's going to help build your intimacy. And it just shows that we don't have to be perfect. We can mess up. We could try new things. We can, still feel close. We could fall off the bed in the middle of masturbating, or whatever. It just takes pressure off and it helps build connection. And sometimes the sexiest moments and the ones that you remember are when you're laughing so hard you can't breathe. And my husband and I just crack up 24/7. And we just have so much fun and we enjoy being intimate because of that,
Mm.
So that's kind of where I brought that from.
It's a great answer. And I agree with you. Sometimes being serious or intense can be really fun. But yeah, being able to kick back and just laugh and be playful, it's a really great way to build intimacy and trust.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about self love. We talked a lot about masturbation, how it's so vital for people to explore their bodies and get a better understanding of their own pleasure. But it's also still very taboo for a lot of people. Why do you feel that masturbation is essential for orgasm confidence and body appreciation?
Well, you're educating yourself on your own body. And if you don't know yourself, then your partner may struggle and it may cause issues in your own relationship. I mean, it's how you learn what feels good, what kind of touch you like, and even just what your orgasm signals are, where you're going to get close to, because your body will change. You might tighten up, your hips might tighten up, your hips might actually move and grind. And so when you are doing things for yourself, you can understand what is meant to be for somebody else. You could figure it out. And your partner is not always going to know, and doing this for yourself will help build confidence and reframing it from like, I need someone else, like you said before, I need someone else to give me pleasure versus I own my pleasure and can share it with you. And that's building empowerment. And that's what
Yes,
we need.
absolutely. Also, it's a way for us to learn, maybe parts of our body we never explored before.
Yeah.
I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she was sharing with me because you and I both know the anatomical clitoris, it has those bulbs down at the bottom. And she was telling me that she likes to rub at the opening of the vagina near where those bulbs are. And she's like, it was like a whole other experience. And those are the type of things that if we don't explore our bodies, we may never know about ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's why the education part is so important because a lot of people don't realize that the bulbs that go down the vulvar area are actually part of the clitoris.
Yeah.
And so the education that you and I offer can really help so many women and just learning their body to be able to explore. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, well, I don't even know what to do. Well, let's just learn what's down there first.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like we really do teach you all the things we don't talk about in health class.
Yeah.
For couples with a mismatched sex drive, because that comes up a lot in my
A lot.
practice, what are some ways that they can find joy and connection without that pressure?
I mean, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, where not every connection has to end in penetration or orgasm. You could have just touch dates like massages or kissing sessions or cuddling and bring some of that eroticism. I know that, my husband and I, we make out on a daily basis. He just left before my recording here to go see his mom, and we had a makeout session. Lasted 2 minutes, but I'm looking forward to him coming back home, doing all this fun stuff without the pressure of going all the way, finding that middle ground, maybe even mutual masturbation or exploring toys, or even just doing something for your partner if you're not in the mood.
Mhm.
Just keeping intimacy alive and doing different things. It can differ day by day, night by night. And so you just got to find little ways to keep connecting. The only problem, though, many times is that when you try to do something that is intimate, but you're not ready for sex, you have some people that might be like, oh, I'm getting kissed. I want to have sex. So we have to set our intention sometimes and use our voice and just say, I'm really not in the mood right now, but I would still like to connect and have some kissing or touching and speak what you need.
Yeah, it always comes back to communication, I find. And, we learned in Sex Coach U about the touch continuum and how
Yeah.
what different touch means. Perhaps your partner puts their hand on your shoulder and you think that means that if you give into that, you're going to have sex. So then you
Right.
might be like, oh, get off of me. So I agree with you. Like being able to communicate what this touch means, like, hey, I want to make out with you for 2 minutes before you go visit your mother
Right.
and, it's going to build that excitement too, which may make you want to be more intimate. And maybe it doesn't, but I
But that's
agree.
okay.
Hmm.
That's okay. You have to be okay with it. But the more that you do those little things, the more that your libido will start following.
Yeah. Use it or lose it, right?
That is true.
Dr. Stacy, you specialize in painful sex and working with women who struggle in silence. What are the first steps to reclaiming pleasure when sex physically hurts someone?
Just a real quick story. One of the reasons why it is my specialty is because I dealt with it for 6 years after the birth of my child, and I couldn't find anybody to help. So it was really a struggle. I had 6 years of not having sex, believe it or not. And here
Mm.
I am, a sexologist, and I just can't have sex. But I didn't have the support system because this was 24 years ago. So the first thing is nowadays there's more people out there, more physicians that are aware of what painful sex is. So I would say, first of all, talk about it because most people are not talking about it or they think that it's normal. And pain with sex is not normal. Okay. And if any doctor tries to tell you too many women are suffering quietly because they're embarrassed, their doctors are shying them away. My doctor said, oh, just relax and drink some wine. I'm like, I don't have to relax to have sex. It's what I love doing the most, you
Mhm.
know? Step two, you want to rule out any type of medical issues, such as, if you have vaginal dryness, see if there's a way to lubricate, pelvic floor issues, hormonal changes. And then the third thing I would say is just retrain your body with gentle touches, lubrication, self exploration. Pleasure is not going to start with that penetration. So you have to make sure that you feel safe, that you're relaxed, and you give yourself permission to really go slow, especially if you have a partner and have your partner be part of that process.
What role do you see toys playing in helping people explore their bodies and enhance their orgasms?
Why not play with toys? I think a lot of people can be intimidated by toys, but I always like to say that, first of all, if a woman, because it is difficult for women to have orgasms, if it's something that they need, then women have every right to have a toy in their toy box, and their partners should be open to allowing women to feel pleasure. But I think toys is kind of just a way to expand your options, your repertoire, and you can learn about new sensations, add variety. And sometimes for those women that struggle with masturbation, I know that my arm gets tired. I never use my arm. I'm always using a toy. It can help get you over that plateau if you're not used to doing it because sometimes it's more difficult to do that to yourself. But it takes also the pressure off someone to perform. So if you have a partner in there, you don't have to worry about making sure that your partner has an orgasm because you have a toy to help you. It's kind of like your right-hand man.
Yeah, it's like the teammate.
Exactly. It's for enhancement. It's not replacing, it's enhancing.
Yes. I think of sex toys like GPS in a car. So
Yeah.
you probably know how to get home, but the GPS is going to give you the quickest, most efficient route where you avoid construction and like whatever else. And so that's what a toy does too. It's just getting you there a little bit faster.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
Thanks. Dr. Stacy, if somebody's feeling stuck or disconnected or ashamed about their body or having orgasms, what's the first baby step that you would recommend they take after listening to this episode?
We have to get rid of shame. Shame is a message that we were taught. And, we are sexual beings and we need to just empower ourselves and be proud of ourselves. And that's why all this education that you, Jennifer, are teaching everybody as I am is so important. I think, when you go into an experience, if you're nervous or you're disconnected or ashamed, start with doing something that makes you feel beautiful. Maybe it's lighting a candle, putting on music, taking a shower, shaving, touching your body in the bathtub with bubbles, no agenda, not even to get an orgasm, not to even masturbate, but just curiosity. And that's one of the things that I tell all my clients. Curiosity is where you have to come from, not judgment, because the shame and all that's coming from judgment. It could just be something, just feeling your breath on your chest or just having your hands on your breast, exploring with the mirror, all these kind of things. Just one little act of self-love can get rid of so much shame. And I think we all need to do that.
Yes. And I also really like positive affirmations to yourself. So looking in the
Yes,
mirror and saying, I love you, you're really pretty. And if that feels hard, I'm learning to love you. I'm learning to embrace my body, like something positive that's going to help lift you up.
absolutely. And you're right. It is difficult for many people to say these things to themselves because a lot of times they don't believe them. But it's
Mhm.
almost like a habit. You have to go to the gym for 30 days to actually feel like going to the gym. You have to sit there and talk to yourself for 30 days to actually feel like you're what you're saying you are. Sometimes just the more it's like that energy. We're talking about energy that you put out there. So
Yeah.
that's a great tip.
Dr. Stacy, I'm going to have your info in the show notes for our listeners to find you, but I know you mentioned you have a free PDF of your book available. Can you tell us more about your book and where they can find that?
Absolutely. It's called the Confessions and Lessons of a Sexpert. You can find it on Amazon, but you can get a free PDF copy on my website. And the link for Amazon's there as well if people like an actual paperback book. But if you go to drstacyfriedman.com and there's a book link, you can click it and get that information there as well. Just make sure you don't put an E in my name. It's Stacy. And you
Yeah.
can get the free PDF there.
Thank you so much for that offer, Dr. Stacy. I can't wait to check it out. Now,
Absolutely.
before we finish today, is there anything else that you want to talk about or mention before we wrap it up?
Yeah, well, we just did an interview with you, Jennifer, for my podcast. For those of you that really enjoy these types of education and podcasts, I have a podcast called the Purple Passion Project because I'm very into purple and I'm very into passion. And I think that we all need to be learning. And that's one of the reasons why I started it. So you could follow me all over social media, on YouTube, everywhere at Dr. Stacy Friedman. And if you forget the Purple Passion Project, go to a streaming platform and look up Dr. Stacy Friedman and you'll find me.
Amazing. And I will have this episode up on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch a video, you will be able to see that Dr. Stacy has the most amazing purple hair and purple nails.
Thank you.
Yes, gorgeous.
And purple amethyst.
Yes, bring in the purple. I got the purple lips on today
And you
for
got the
you.
purple wall. You're good. You're matching me. And
Trying
wait,
to
purple cup.
complimentary. Oh, okay. All right, Dr. Stacy. Yes. That's amazing. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for being on the show today. And I love talking to you. And
Absolutely.
you're just awesome. Thank you so much.
And you too. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our future collaborations.
Yes, me too.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Sip with Summers, where we laughed, learned, and probably said clitoris more times than your high school health teacher ever did. If you liked what you heard, be a gem and leave a review. Share it with your favorite group chat, or send it to that friend who really needs to hear this. You know the one. For more tips, tools, and slightly inappropriate jokes, follow me on social or head to summersoflove.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay turned on, and as always, keep sipping.